Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, Energized by Celsius. As Drake says, we got the club coming up on a Tuesday because it was extremely busy from the Advent Health Training Facility as it was day one of Bucs OTAs. I'm your host, Matt Matera, and joined with me is SR, Mr. Scott Reynolds, and we're going to break down every single thing that we saw from day one of Bucs OTAs. I'm talking about Kyle Trask, Blaine Gabbert. We saw some stuff from Vida Vea, Will Gholston as well, too. So a ton of information. We'll talk about who was there, who wasn't there. There's a lot to get into. And of course, the Pewter Report podcast is energized by Celsius. Folks, if you don't know about Celsius yet, as SR appears on the screen,
Hello.
He's back now. SR, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm energized by Celsius, and boy, I needed it today. There was a lot happening over at the Advent Health Training Center. Thank you very much, Arctic Vibe, one of my new top favorites, probably a top 5 flavor. Folks, if you're not on the Celsius train now, I don't say it's left the station because there's always room for more passengers, but get on board, man. This is some good stuff. It's not just Arctic Vibe. It's Tropical Vibe. It's Peach Vibe. It is a cornucopia of flavors. And I'm not sure how the scientists do it. It's like they squeeze peaches into the damn can for the Peach Vibe. They squeeze little berries into the can for the Arctic Vibe. Orange, one of my favorites. It's like freshly squeezed orange in that can. I mean, it really isn't, but gosh, it tastes like it. But the best thing about it is, Matt, full on energy, no sugar or preservatives. It's healthy. It's a great way to get your energy without the sugar crash. So you get that nice energy spike. You don't have to worry about coming down later and wanting to take a nap 3 or 4 hours. It keeps you powered throughout the day. And we needed it today. We're at the Advent Health Training Center today, looking at all the Buccaneer players out there and OTAs. Look at all these awesome cans of Celsius just everywhere, all sorts of flavors. Everyone that comes out just seems to be even better than the next. I'm going to be rocking a cola flavor tomorrow, which is a great change up. The fruit flavors are fantastic, folks. But if you do like soda, I highly recommend the cola flavored Celsius energy drink. It tastes just like your favorite cola drinks. And the best place to get it is Amazon, because you can hit the subscribe and save button and save some money, and they'll ship those cases right to your house. You don't have to go out and buy it. They ship it right to you. It's so convenient. And then you can also set how often you want those. Matt, I'm going to have to move up my 3-week delivery to 2-week delivery because the Celsius just does not last long in a house full of teenagers, plus my wife and myself. That's just a fact. But if you need a can right now, go to Celsius.com, click on the store locator, and then type in your address. You'll see nutrition centers and stores, convenience stores, gas stations, grocery stores that have Celsius around you. Go grab a couple cans, give them a different flavor a try. You might find that you have a new top 5 favorite that cracks your lineup. And also, too, don't forget the fast bars. These are the best protein bars on the market, hands down. For one reason, I mean, listen, the fact that they're packed with protein, that's to be expected. They're very low in sugar. That's also to be expected when you're dealing with the fast brand. But the best part now, Matt, is both flavors, the white chocolate cookies and cream and the salted peanut caramel crunch, both of them are on sale, $5 off through the end of this month. Use the promo code 5FASTLANE on Amazon to get yourself a 12-pack protein bar shipped right to your house. Again, $5 off. If you're not sure which one to try them both. Folks, I'm not supposed to say this, but they taste like candy bars, right?
They do.
I've had protein bars that taste like sawdust, wood chips, cardboard. They're just gross, but you wolf them down because you want the protein. These protein bars actually taste good. They look good. They taste even better, folks. Give them a try. The fast brand from our friends at Celsius.
Yeah, the drinks, the bars, it all tastes fantastic. It's to the point where sometimes I'll just drink Celsius. I don't even need the energy. I just like the taste of it. So I'm having it. Just want to give a shout out here. Thank you so much to Thomas Chase with the $5 super chat. He says, always great work,
Appreciate
PR.
you.
Glad to finally join live. Go Bucks. Awesome. You can join live. I understand, when we go 4:00, some people are still working, maybe not always able to catch us when we are starting the show right away, but awesome that you could join us today because we got a ton to get into, Scott. I think we should start off too. We posted a story early on in the day, almost right after the Bucks were done, not with practice, but done stretching and warming up. There was, I would say overall, there was a very good turnout of Bucks players, veteran players that were there today, but not every single player was there. I think there were some notable players that did not make the practice today at OTAs. As we see, we lost Scott here, so it's just me, but that's all right. I'll right the ship. Some of the players that weren't here today, Tom Brady, obviously, that was to be expected, though. Welcome back, Scott, again. Hello. I was just going through the players that were not at OTAs today.
Yes.
Offensively, it was Tom Brady. That was to be expected. We heard Clyde Christensen talk about that. They wanted to get Kyle Trask a lot of reps, which they did, along with Blaine Gabbert. Mike Evans was not there as well, too. His wife, Ashley, is pregnant and should be having the baby, I think, over the next couple of days. So Mike Evans is very busy right now, too. Russell Gage was not there, and Leonard Fournette was not there either, nor was Donovan Smith. Those are some of the big names, the heavy hitters. And listen, it's OTA, so when we put the story out, we're not accusing players of, oh, why aren't they here? Things like that, especially someone like Donovan Smith that doesn't necessarily have to be there. He's a veteran that's been there for a while. I thought it was a little bit interesting with Russell Gage, though, just for the fact that he's on a new team. And you saw some of the other new players there with Logan Ryan and Keanu Neal and Shaq Mason. So, and I'm sure he has a very good reason. I'm not prying into his personal life or anything like that. But Gage was one of the notable absences on the offensive side of the ball. On defense, we saw Shaq Barrett was not there. I should say we didn't see. Shaq Barrett was not there. Devin White, Levante David, and Carlton Davis, and Anthony Nelson as well, too. Again, Nelson falls into that category of probably should be here, even though, and again, we don't know what's going on, but probably should be here if he can. But those are some of the notable names. Overall, though, I thought a great turnout, especially, with Logan Hall as a rookie defensive tackle. They made sure Vida Vea was there, Will Gholston. You saw them talking at the beginning of practice. On the offensive side of the ball with Ryan Jensen and Tristan Wirfs and Shaq Mason there. You got Luke Gadecki, and we'll get into the reps that were shared at left guard today too. So overall, I thought it was a great turnout in terms of veterans showing up and leading by example for this Bucs team.
Yeah, Alex says maybe you guys should give Vita some Celsius to spark his metabolism. Let's get right into it, right? I mean,
sure.
With Vida Vea, it's one thing I noticed right away. I love defensive line play, so almost as much as Blaine Gabbert. So I was keeping an eye on Vida Vea, and Vita looks big. He looks big.
Scott, you were like giddy. You were like, oh my God, like there's Vida Vea. He looks so different. He looks bigger. And to your point, but you were absolutely giddy. You couldn't stop talking about how big Vida Vea was.
I mean, I was giddy just to see Vita out there. It was one of my favorite players. I love big defensive linemen, but Vita's a little too big right now. I think that he'll be the first one to admit that, although he said he liked where he was right now. And he noted that he didn't have to play any games tomorrow, right? And I asked Todd Bowles, I said, you happy with where Vita's at weight-wise? He's like, listen, the first day of OTAs, we're not weighing people right now. But I did hear from a source that did say that Vida Vea is actually a little slimmer than he was this time last year. So if you remember, Bruce Arians was kind of on Vida Vea's case during training camp saying, we need Vida Vea to lose a little bit of weight. And I would like to see Vida Vea be a little more svelte, right? And be able to play more plays as a result. Vida Vea, when asked about that today, he did bring up something that was interesting, right? He said they did a really good job of rotating the entire defensive line last year, because I think Vida played around 47% of the snaps last year. And you'd like to see a guy making $17 million be over 50, 55, maybe even 60% of the snaps. But he said that they wanted to keep us fresh. And listen, Vida Vea has had some injury issues. He's only been healthy 2 out of his 4 seasons where he's really kind of gone the entire way. one of those was last year. So he was healthy. I think he missed one game due to a knee injury that he suffered in Washington, the last play. But otherwise, he was pretty healthy and had a Pro Bowl year, right? We're talking 4 sacks, career high, and made his impact known. And I thought he played better down the stretch too. So I want to see Vida Vea play more. I want to see him in better shape. But he's obviously using this time wisely to shed some pounds. You saw him out there today wearing a sweatshirt, right? Well, a hoodie sweatshirt with a T-shirt underneath that, and then the jersey. So he's obviously trying to sweat away the pounds, sweat into the oldies, as we would say back in the day.
Yeah, Vita seemed to be okay with the overall snap share, as you were just talking about, and how much he played. And I understand the Bucs want to make sure that Vida Vea is going to be healthy. They obviously just signed him to a long-term extension, and we understand how much of a beast that he can be when he's in there. But I kind of lean towards, and I'm not really overly concerned about like what type of shape he is in right now. I think when it's time to answer the bell, come training camp, come the regular season, I'm not going to be worried about Vida Vea's weight or, how he looks and things like that. But with that said, I do want to see Vida Vea increase his number of snaps. And that's something that Casey Rogers talked about too. Like if you're going to sign him long-term and you know that he needs to be the bell cow along the interior defensive line, as much as we like Logan Hall, I think we have to understand that he's going to be a rookie that's going to make rookie mistakes. So there's going to be a lot of emphasis on Vida Vea really taking another step this year too. And that's, again, something that Casey Rogers spoke about.
Right.
And I asked Vita today too about if he's ready to take on that leadership role and Vita admitted himself too. He said, I like to play around a little bit. He likes to joke.
Yeah.
Vita's very funny when he's up there. He can be sarcastic. Right. He's a little bit on the quiet side, but he's a funny dude for sure. And he said that he kind of needs to cut that out a little bit this year because he's the de facto leader.
Step up. Yeah.
As the nose tackle. Of course, you have the veteran Will Gholston there who will obviously hold court as well too.
I'm telling you right now,
Scott. Yeah, you said he looked great as well.
Looks good. Now I saw Will up close. We talked for about 15 minutes, right next to the guy at the Bruce Arians Family Foundation golf tournament dinner, and I mean Will's coming off a career year. I think he had 4.5 sacks, career high, and he's an old man now. He's 30. He'll be 31 later this year in his 10th season with the Buccaneers. But Will Gholston right now looks like how they want Logan Hall to look in about a year or two. And it was interesting, right, Matt? Because seeing Gholston stand next to Logan Hall in practice, I mean, you saw both those guys are 6'6". And Gholston just bigger, but he's very svelte. He's chiseled, and I think that's the prototype from a size standpoint. I'm telling you right now, folks, after watching 10 years of Will Gholston and even going through the bag drills today, Logan Hall is more athletic. He might be the most athletic defensive lineman on this team. I think he is right now. He's just very agile. He's very athletic, and he's going to be better than Will Gholston. So don't mistake what I'm saying, what we're saying, as he's the next Will Gholston, because he's going to be a better version of Will Gholston. Will Gholston was a 4th-round pick for a reason. Logan Hall was the 33rd overall pick for a reason. He's going to be better. But I'm just saying from a size and a body composition standpoint, they're almost identical on the field in terms of the size, the stature, the 6'6" height, the way their bodies are constructed. And it's interesting to see that you can see Will Gholston is 10, 15 pounds heavier than Logan Hall right now. And that's the mold. That's the prototype that they want Logan Hall to finally get to. And when he does, I think that's when he's got the chance to be a Pro Bowl caliber defensive tackle for this team.
He's going to take all of the good things we like about Will Gholston and just absolutely enhance that. And one of the things I first noticed when we were out there, before they even started really running around and moving and they just began stretching, the first thing I saw was Will Gholston talking to Logan Hall.
Yes.
And I think Gholston is going to be, just as much as I just talked about Vida Vea, it's going to be Will Gholston that is taking Logan Hall under his wing. Yeah. And sure, there's the comparisons, and I don't think Will Gholston's being like, hey, people are saying that you play kind of like me. Here's the, here's the keys to the castle and how you're going to get everything done. But I think there's a great foundation and a great mentorship between Will Gholston, Nacho, and you heard Todd Bowles talk about that a lot today, where you don't necessarily have to be a starter to be a leader on this team. And in particular with the defensive line, because they rotate guys all the time, each guy's going to be able to, and we know how vocal Nacho is, but each player will have their moments, will be able to have a say because they work so well too. And maybe part of that's because Vita's not the most rah-rah type of player in the first place. And obviously Gholston has the tenure and the seniority, but I really like as a whole where the defensive tackle depth is going to be. And sure, there will probably add one more before the season really gets going, but I think it's in a good place, not a great place, but overall I feel pretty well that we're not going to be concerned too much about the defensive tackle group.
It was interesting because Deidrin Sanat, right? He's the former USF tackle, the new kid in the block, former Falcon. He's a runt, man. He's 6 foot tall, but he's 300 some pounds. So he's built like a fire hydrant, right? And to see him standing next to Logan Hall and Will Gholston at 6'6", just towering over Deidrin Sanat. But then the interesting thing was seeing Deidrin Sanat go up against Shaq Mason, who's only 6'1" as a guard. So it was like these they look like two little sumo wrestlers. They're just these big, like stocky guys that were kind of going at it in the trenches there. But sticking on the defensive side of the ball as we kind of transition, because obviously the big storyline, what everybody wants to talk about, what the headline was on our insider. Matt, you can probably drop that into the chat.
Yep, I will
if you
right
have
now.
Not checked out our insider report from today. It's chock full of stuff. We probably won't even be able to get to it all today here in the podcast. But the quarterbacks, right? There was no Tom Brady out there as expected. We kind of called that earlier, saying that Brady, and we learned today from Cam Brate, who is a national treasure, by the way. I just love that guy. He's the best interview on the team. He said that Brady might be making a bit of a cameo, maybe a surprise appearance later in OTAs, but obviously wasn't there today. So all eyes were on Blaine Gabbert, of course, and why wouldn't they be, Matt? But also Kyle Trask, to see how the second-year quarterback is developing. And, I had to check my notes twice. Blaine actually threw 2 interceptions to Trask's 1. A little disappointed in Blaine, not going to lie, but I got a feeling he's going to rebound. But listen, it's first day of OTAs. And D. Delaney, though, man, you talk about veterans who stepped up and showed out. D. Delaney, he had an interception against Blaine. Blaine was trying to kind of heave the ball towards 6'6" tight end Cody McElroy, and D just skied up in the air and snatched it. Almost looked like Antoine Winfield out-leaping Michael Pittman for that interception. That's kind of how it looked. So that was one interception. The other interception that Blaine threw was a pass to Jalen Darden, and I didn't get a great look at it. Didn't know if it was a pass that was more on Blaine or if it was more on Darden because he didn't come back for the ball. But either way, Jamel Dean tipped the ball up in the air, kind of like almost like a volleyball, right? Like where it's a set and someone's going to come spike it. And who would that? If you're going to tip the ball up in the air, all right, if the ball is going to be in the air, who's going to pick it off, Matthew?
Without question, it's Mike Edwards. I was having flashbacks to the Mike Edwards double pick six game.
Yeah.
With the first one, Carlton, it might have been the second one. Either way, Carlton Davis, he knocked the ball up in the air. And Davis couldn't track it. If he tracked it, he would have caught it. But luckily, Mike Edwards was right there and got the pick six for the touchdown. So I laughed when he made the play. I'm like, of course, Mike Edwards, the ball hawk of this team, was the player that got the interception, which is great for him too. We've obviously talked a lot about him stepping up into a full-time starting role at strong safety next to Antoine Winfield Jr. at free safety. But shout out to D. Delaney, because not only did he have that great interception with the guarding Cody McElroy, it's funny, man, too, because Cody McElroy, as big as he is, and he's a solid receiver, he didn't play big. He doesn't play big. No. And then we talk about Jared Stearns a lot yesterday. 5'7", that guy plays bigger than Cody McElroy.
Agreed.
Without question. But Delaney made a great play there. He also had the big deflection, as you just talked about, too, that led to interception. That was Kyle Trask.
Who picked off the other pass?
It was
say his name.
Ola Kuple Fata Fatukowski. No, that's not it.
Olakune
Fatukasi.
Fatukasi. Olakune Fatukasi.
Olakune
There you go.
Fatukase.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so he had the first interception of the day. That's how they got everything started. And that was the Kyle Trask threw the first interception of the day with Blaine Gabbert throwing the next two. But, you know, it was a really good play by D. Delaney. As far as the quarterbacks go, and Scott, you made a really great point when we were out there. Kyle Trask was throwing a lot of balls to the outside. He was throwing it to the sideline all the time. And you could see this is what you pointed out. You could see the power and the drive when Trask throws it to the right side of the field when he's got that first step where he's a little bit closer because he's a righty.
Drives the ball. I mean, and he threw 2 deep outs that were right on the money in tight coverage. I want to say Kalen Geiger Sr. caught one that had Kyler McMichael draped all over him. And then the first one that was a deep out was to Vincent Smith.
With Zion McCollum on him.
Plastered on him as well. So those were 2 really good throws. But when he opens up and can throw, and he's, of course, a right-handed quarterback, they all are, but when he can step and throw and power the ball to the right, man, it has a little bit of zip and accuracy on it. But Matt, we noticed that when he was throwing the ball to the left, the accuracy just really wasn't there. He missed 2 wide open deep balls, one to Jarrett Stearns, another one, I think, to Geiger. And he did hit a nice deep out to Scotty Miller on the left-hand side. But that's just something that, you know, sometimes quarterbacks, they have a preference, right? It just almost like three-point shooters. Sometimes they like to shoot from the right side of the key as opposed to the left, right? That just kind of say how they see it. Obviously, when you're the quarterback, you got to be able to throw all across the field, and you got to be able to hit that. So that's just one thing we'll kind of keep noticing about Trask. But I wasn't charting, obviously, all these throws, but he was much more accurate to the right than he was to the left. Now Blaine Gabbert was a crafty veteran today because he threw the majority of his passes to Cam Brate, who was the most experienced player out there. Cam Brate might have had 20 catches today, and about 18 of those were probably from Gabbert. It's like, I'm looking for 84, and I'm throwing it his way because A, Cam will catch it, and B, I trust him more than I do Brashard Perriman or Scotty Miller or Tyler Johnson or whoever. And so smart, heady, crafty play by Blaine Gabbert to target Brate. And Brate did a good job getting open. And
Brate I thought was fine. Another point I'll say just about Trask and Gabbert, and I'm not at the point yet where I really want to compare the two of them because it's day one of OTAs and we have a very long way
one's
to go.
More handsome and the other one, is not an ugly man, but I mean, he's no Blaine Gabbert.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that goes without saying.
Yeah.
The point I will make, though, is that Trask, I felt, was a little more aggressive with his throws today. We said, talking about throwing it to the outside and he was pushing it down the field more, which I like to see. Where Gabbert, on the other hand, and this isn't a knock on Gabbert by any means,
short, intermediate,
as you mentioned, very short throws. Took what was given to him. When he tried to go deep, that's when he kind of got into trouble with the D. Delaney interception when he was looking for McElroy. So a lot of underneath stuff from Gabbert. Trask tried to push the envelope a little bit further, which I didn't hate. I mean, obviously he missed a lot of those throws, but Trask also had the throw of the day later in practice. It was more down the middle, but I think even a little bit more on the left side where he struggled than versus the right side. But he hit Jalen Darden deep down the field for a bomb in stride. Beat D. Delaney on the play, who was playing great the whole practice up until that last one. So that was a huge moment, not just for Kyle Trask, but for Jalen Darden as well, too, who we spoke a lot about yesterday, making a big play there at the end. So Trask moving the ball, some good, some bad. Overall, exactly kind of what you're going to get from a second-year player that we're still not totally 100% sure about. But definitely ended on a high note with that big play. And I thought,
no doubt,
on a day where the defense did well, especially in the secondary, that was a nice way for the offense to cap off the practice.
It really was. And I did have a Jalen Darden article up earlier today, right as the OTA started. So if you want to read more about Jalen Darden, that article is up on pewterreport.com. Matt, you might want to put it in the chat as well. But some really good comments there, not just from wide receivers coach Kevin Garber, but also from special teams coordinator Keith Armstrong, and who said not to give away the entire article, but he said that we are going to give him another look as the return specialist. And Matt, the return specialist, and I didn't put this in the insider, so you're getting some extra stuff here on the podcast. The return specialists today were Jalen Darden, Jareth Stearns, Devin Tompkins, the other undrafted free agent wide receiver, Scotty Miller, who both you and I lament. He's always back there, and he never gets in the game. Put Scotty in the game.
Give him a chance. Give him a chance. It's all he's asking for. You put him on gunner, he makes a play, forces a fumble. Let him return some punts. Come on.
Give him a kickoff return. Come on, Scooter.
Yeah.
Give him a shot.
Guys trying to fight and make the team.
And then Sean Murphy-Bunting was back there too. I didn't see Sean Murphy-Bunting field any balls, but he was talking with Nick Rapone, the safety coach, he's kind of the return guy back there on special teams. All the assistants kind of pitch in and help out. And so he was back there too. So those were the return specialists today. Stearns, Tompkins, Darden, Miller. And although we didn't see him back there, SMB was back there. He just wasn't doing any actual returning that we saw. Might have looked at. There you go. And so the Darden article is in the chat. So click on that too. Good stuff about Jalen Darden. He's going to get another shot. And the interesting thing about Darden, who didn't really impress today outside of that long touchdown to end practice. It's a nice way to make a lasting impression, right? When practice ends and you make the play to kind of cap it off. But Matt, this team didn't draft a wide receiver. They signed 4 after the draft, but this team is not yet ready to give up on Jalen Darden, either as a receiver or as a return specialist.
Yeah, I've said that too, and I don't think that they should. I mean, he's only a second-year player, and I understand they got him in a later round, but remember, the Bucs actually traded up to go get Jalen Darden,
right,
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So they saw something in this player that they liked, and we all know the electric speed. I just think it's way too early to give up on a receiver that you traded up to go get. He's in his second year. He's going to learn and adjust and make some changes. I don't know. I understand people are unhappy with them and he slips and falls all the time, but like he's going to learn. And if he doesn't, then he won't be here. But they've given Tyler Johnson a lot of opportunities. Why does Tyler Johnson get more opportunities than Jalen Darden shouldn't? Right. I don't like what, because he went to North Texas? Big freaking deal. They get small school players like all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't understand I understand the struggles that he had last year, but you go across the league, there's a lot of rookies that had issues their first year.
Yeah.
So to pull the plug on Jalen Darden already, I think that's way too early. I think that's ridiculous.
And he is healthy now. He was out there practicing and he's going to have a shot, right? I mean, there's 3 open spots. If this team keeps 6, maybe it keeps 7 receivers, but it's certainly keeping 6. We know the top 3, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Russell Gage. It's going to be a dogfight for those other 3 because you got the guys that have been around here. I mean, Scotty Miller's in a contract here, right?
Yeah.
This is year 4. Tyler Johnson, 4th round pick, Jalen Darden, 4th round pick. So they've invested a couple of what I call middle round semi-premium picks in a couple of receivers. Brashad Perryman, former 1st round pick, who's had some bright moments in Tampa, still here. Cyril Grayson, who is if you're a what have you done for me lately kind of guy, he's the guy that's probably done the most lately before he pulled the hamstring. I mean, he won the Jets game and had a fantastic game against Carolina as well. So there's a lot of receivers. Oh, and by the way, then you signed 4 of them, and we're already high on Stearns, and we'll see how Cameron Brown and Geiger and Tompkins end up doing. But this team is stacked at wide receiver.
They are absolutely stacked, and as you mentioned, they're giving some guys a shot, and all you need is a shot. Just like you would love a shot to win $10 million from Underdog Fantasy.
$10 million.
Yeah, the Dr. Evil, $10 million. Everyone knows Austin Powers. We love Austin Powers. But yeah, Underdog Fantasy, their Best Ball Mania 3 is coming up. And folks, the earlier you get in on Best Ball Mania, the better chance that you have of winning a big prize. Last year, one of the contestants that won $2 million did their Best Ball Mania in June and went home with cash money. The awesome thing about Underdog Fantasy is that they have different games going on where they have the set it and forget it, where you draft a team and you can do so many different drafts for very inexpensive cost. You draft the team. You don't have to worry about, oh, this player's on a bye, this player's injured. What do I do? You make your picks. You set them up for the whole season. You don't have to, maybe you're busy one weekend. You're traveling to Germany, going to the Bucs Seahawks game. You forget to set your lineup. That's all right. You already did that months ago. Also, if you're feeling good about, I think the Bucs are going to go off this week. I want to make sure I draft Mike Evans and Chris Godwin on my team. They have weekly fantasy prizes. They have daily fantasy prizes as well, too. Maybe there's a Monday Night Football game you're really interested in. You can go and bet on prop bets as well, too, all at UnderdogFantasy.com. Best Ball Mania 3 coming up. Make sure you go to Underdog Fantasy and also use the promo code Pewter to double your first deposit.
Yes, sir.
Put in a lot of money, they'll match it. So there you go. UnderdogFantasy.com. Best Ball Mania 3 coming up. Don't miss out because $10 million is a whole lot of cash.
I agree. Speaking of a whole lot of cash, I want to think that Cam Brate was a little jealous of Tom Brady. And not that Brady doesn't deserve it, but I mean, when we had Cam Brate today, who again is a national treasure. We love him. He is the best interview on the team by far. It's comedic gold. But he had something to say about Tom Brady.
Should we play the video?
Let's play.
Retired for 40 days?
No, he seemed the exact same. He said it was the happiest he was all off season. The first time he came back to throw, he's like, I'm back. Like you could tell he was fired up to be there. He just, I can't imagine like Tom not playing football, what he would be like. Like this is like when he's Tom Brady. So, like I said, we're just fired up to have him back. And
Unfinished business.
That's right, for sure.
What do you think about his plans after football that he's going into the broadcast booth?
I couldn't believe, I was like, why would Tom subject himself to criticism and, the responsibility to call these games? And then I saw the contract and I was like, okay, I get it. Yeah, pretty cool.
Any dad
More
jokes?
more money than he's made in his football career.
I would take that deal. That's a good deal.
You think he's going to have slip any dad jokes in there?
Yes, he's going to have some dad jokes for sure.
Yeah.
That Brady said that dad jokes are just part of Tom Brady's repertoire at age 44, soon to be 45. But I tell you what, I think Cam Brate would actually be one hell of a commentator. He is funny. He's witty. I mean,
he's smart. He went to Harvard.
Very smart. Yes. Yeah. I think he'd be dynamite in the broadcast booth.
I agree. Maybe down the road, whenever his Bucs playing career is done, maybe he could, I know Rondé Barber does a lot of the preseason games, and Rondé previously did some announcing for Fox and broadcasting. He might still, I'm not 100% sure. But I would love to see Cam Brate do something with the Bucs, either be an insider, somehow involved. Martin Gramatica does the Spanish play-by-play or color commentating. So I would love to see Cam Brate in that role. I mean, he's so beloved by Bucs fans. And every single time we talk to him, there's laughter, there's chatter. He gives good answers too. It's not just the Cam Brate comedy show. He provides a lot of important details and information as well too. And the mustache just put it on top.
The mustache was just gold today, right?
Well, it reminded me too, because Gronk for a while was doing a Mr. Stash type of thing when he was growing the mustache back. Yeah. And Cam Brate just blew this one out of the water.
Yeah, he did.
It is a 10 out of 10.
I mean, he showed up looking like he should be, in a barbershop quartet, right? I mean, it was fantastic and fabulous. I mean, it was just I've got mustache envy. I mean, listen, let's be honest. It was no Matt Matera mustache. Okay. I'm not going to go crazy over it, but it was pretty damn close. I mean, 2 weeks growth and it just popped up. And the interesting thing too, that Cam said was JJ Howland, who is the new tight end that they signed. He was a tryout guy from Yale. So he was already busting his chops in the film room. He said, yeah, the Yale guy messed up a couple times, in the film room. I had to correct him. But, that's what happens when you go to a second-rate school like Yale. Obviously, Brate being the Harvard guy, getting the Ivy League jokes in there. But then we told him that, and he didn't know this, but the media kind of said, hey, yeah, he actually wore your number,
Yeah.
84, for the tryout. And he says, oh, I'm going to have a talking to him about that then. But Brady did note that it was very similar how he came up as a tryout player in the Buccaneers camp as well from the Ivy League. So there's going to be a little bit of Ivy League rivalry, but I think Brady is such a tremendous teammate that if there's anybody in the tight end room that's going to be taken under his wing, it's going to be J.J. Howland for sure. He also had some great things to say about O'Keefe too.
Yeah, he did. He pretty much said that O'Keefe reminded him of Luke Stocker, I believe it was, when Stocker was there. And he said that Stocker protected him when they were blocking together along the line.
Almost like a hockey enforcer, right? Like
yeah,
a goon,
yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
And he said with O'Keefe, you already see that he has an edge and that he's very serious when he plays. He said that Brate said he saw Keefe there. There was a play that he didn't make. I think the ball wasn't the most accurately thrown ball. So Keefe wasn't able to make the play, and Brate's words were, it looked like he was about to blow a gasket. So I had to tell him, like, listen,
he's a ginger,
Yeah,
that happens.
Yeah. But he told him, listen, like, it's all right. It's the first day of OTAs. And this was overarching theme to all the rookies, is that, mistakes are going to happen.
Yeah.
Make those mistakes now, but make sure you don't make the same mistake twice. And I thought that's going to be great for Cam, with Cam Brate taking Keefe under his wing, taking Kate Otten once he gets back onto the field. Yeah. I think he's going to be
He's going to take everyone under their wing. He's the grandpa now. Cam Brate is like the old man. He's waiting for Gronk to get back. He called him Grandpa Gronk today.
Grandpa Gronk. Yeah, that's right.
So he's no longer the older guy. If Gronk comes back, then Gronk is the older guy. But this is O'Keefe right there, number 41. Again, really, I'm sure that he's lathered on the sunscreen. He has to with that fair skin. I mean,
he's still looking pretty pale.
He's a sunburn waiting to happen, and he's got to be putting 70 on. I mean, the trainers probably say, here's some 50. He's like, you got any 70? I mean, that's probably what's happening here. But this guy, I think will block you into next week. I mean, he's got that demeanor to him, like you said, Matt. Cam Brate says this guy has an obvious edge, and this was the first day of OTAs. I can't wait to see this guy in pads in training camp. And folks, next to O'Keefe, number 22, that is Keanu Neal. And he looks like a linebacker. I know he played linebacker for the Cowboys. They list him at 6 foot 211. I don't think he's 211. I think this guy's like 220. Because when he was standing next to all the other safeties in the individual drills, I looked at him and I was like, holy crap, like this guy's huge. So I was really kind of shocked at how big he is. Just like a stature standpoint, and he moves well for his size, but he looked like a linebacker, Matt, standing amongst the safeties. And I looked on the roster, and they've got Mike Edwards listed at 205, and they've got Keanu Neal listed at 211. You always can't go by the rostered weight, folks, because they don't update these things very much at all. But I would say Keanu Neal looked 10 to 15 pounds bigger than Mike Edwards, who is supposedly 205.
It'll be fun to see what type of role that he's going to have. Understandably, it's going to be at safety. But Scott, you were also saying that you love the big type of safeties, which I don't know if the Bucs, they had it to a degree with Jordan Whitehead. I think Jordan Whitehead got more known just because he hit hard, let alone like the size of him. Right. But this is a new element in the Bucs defense that maybe we haven't exactly seen over the past couple of years. So I'm excited to watch what Neal can really do in this defense. I know we didn't see like a ton of him today. I gotta say, I don't love the number 22 on him. I don't like it for safeties in general. And I know he's not going to be like a hybrid type of guy.
Right.
I would prefer if he got a different number, but obviously it's
pick a number, Matt. Give him a number. You're the equipment guy. You give him a number. What would you give him? Do you give him 44?
I was thinking 33. Take Jordan Whitehead's number.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I was trying to think like what numbers are even available because you can't do 35. That's Jamel Dean.
Yeah, Elijah Ponder was 44, but if you're Keanu Neal, you can say, hey,
I mean, he could even like a 37. I could see him doing that. Kyler McMichael has that right now, but he's a rookie versus he's a long-term veteran. So I don't know. Just I don't love I don't like. Maybe I just don't like the number 22 in the NFL. I think it's an okay number overall.
Okay, you don't like Emmitt Smith. We got it.
No,
All
I,
right.
I was just saying, like
Okay.
Emmitt Smith's one of the greatest of all time. I
Yeah.
don't know.
You
I'm
don't
gonna
like
have
him.
to
I
do
got it.
some research on famous number 22s. We'll
Okay.
see.
All right, sounds good. Good question here from Jay Anitra. Scott, how do the OTAs nowadays compare to OTAs back in the day in the Sapp Brooks era, attendance-wise? Well, there really wasn't any OTAs back then. The organized team activities, that's what OTAs stand for. They kind of came about in one of the incarnations of the collective bargaining agreement back in the day. But back then, you didn't really have OTAs. It wasn't really year-round football. You had mini camps, and then you had training camp. And back then, you only had a couple weeks. It wasn't like you had this big off-season program. And I will say this: the OTAs, well, they were mini camps back then. They were like practices. I mean, they were anything goes. I want to say that they were even padded back then, or at least more physical.
That would be sick.
Yeah, I mean, that's football back then was just more fun because there was a lot more hitting and it was more physical. But it's more skilled in this day and age, so it's kind of like pick your poison. But yeah, it was different from an attendance standpoint. I think a lot of people showed up because we're talking the Dungy years back then, and everybody you didn't want to disappoint Tony Dungy. There's just something about the guy that you just didn't want to disappoint Tony. And even if it was voluntary back then, you still showed up. So, and listen, this was a franchise that was hungry, that wanted to turn it around. They were sick and tired of being called the Yuccaneers, the Succaneers, whatever you called them. And so that was kind of a hungry team. Hardy Nickerson was the leader. When I stepped foot into One Buck Place back in 1995, he had just re-signed, or actually he re-signed in 1996, first year under Dungy. That was like the big re-signing that Tony kept Hardy in the house. And that was a huge turnaround time for the Buccaneers, that 96 season when Dungy and Monty Kiffin and all those guys, all those awesome coaches came to town. So, but there is a new sheriff in town. Well, not really new. I mean, I tried to use that line, but he's not new. He's been there. He's won a whole bunch of games, won a Super Bowl, for God's sake. But there's Todd Bowles, your head coach.
Bowles was another entertaining fella today.
Oh, yes, he was.
Bowles got asked a question by ESPN's Jenna Laine. We love Jenna.
We love
she's
Jenna.
Great.
That's right next to us.
Yeah. And so she asked Todd Bowles about, because obviously Tom Brady isn't here. We've established that. She wanted to know, like, how often do they talk? What's the line of communication like? And Bowles wasn't ready to reveal that type of information.
But he did reveal a different side of Todd Bowles that we didn't always get to see once a week when he was just doing those defensive coordinator press conferences, Matt.
That's right. And you know what? We'll just play the video for you, so we don't need to set the
for
table.
itself.
Speaks for itself.
No, I don't think that needs to be public knowledge, how much me and my girlfriend dates. We talk and we're on the same page and we're in lockstep. So we're in lockstep with Byron and Clyde, so everything's good.
You just likened him to being your girlfriend?
No, I did not. It's a joke, Jenna!
I know it was a joke!
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more
stuff.
Bowles personality now that he's a head coach. And again, I've said this before, but I think it's important for people to know. When he was the Jets head coach, you weren't getting this type of Todd Bowles.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because he wanted to go in and be a little authoritative. And remember, he was replacing Rex Ryan, who was a soundbite carousel just every single day saying something like absolutely ridiculous. So Bowles a little more, still, even while being sarcastic, is a little more temperamental. But he goes back to being around Bruce Arians all the time, and we all know how BA can be. So we're seeing this side of Bowles too. And obviously you saw in the video he referenced calling Tom Brady his girlfriend. Then he was just joking as well too, and joking with Jenna Laine. And even after when the press conference was done, he jokingly took his hat off and slammed in his sunglasses, fell to the floor. So we're seeing
he screamed at Jenna again, which was hilarious. So.
Yeah, very jokingly. But that was one of the highlights of his press conference.
And
we're gonna get to talk to him a lot.
The funny thing is going back to 2019 when the Bucs locker room was open. I think I've said this before. It bears repeating. I would talk to the defensive players. What's it like playing for Todd Bowles? This was his first year as defensive coordinator under Bruce Arians, new coaching staff, right? I go up to Will Gholston, right? I went to, some of the defensive players, and they'd say, "Oh, he's funny. He's cracking jokes all the time." And I'm like, "What?" Like you saw this dry, vanilla kind of version of Todd Bowles for about 8 minutes once a week on the defensive coordinator days where he's doing the press conference, just kind of dry, giving you the bare minimum and all that. And you didn't really see his personality. And so it didn't really jibe. It didn't really match up with these players were saying about how he's sarcastic, he cracks jokes and stuff. And then we're starting to see more of it now in the press conferences. And it's great. So a couple things real quick. Jenna is obsessed with Brady. We know Jenna Laine, and she works for ESPN. You have to understand that. She asks her own questions at times. There are other times where she is assigned a topic that they want and need to get audio and video from players and coaches on for some of their ESPN programs, right? Whether it's SportsCenter, whether it's some of the morning shows, whatever, right? And so she kind of has to ask questions. Sometimes they're obvious questions. Sometimes her follow-ups. You're kind of wondering, why is she like going down this path? It's because she's being directed to by Bristol to go down this road. So don't beat up on Jenna. She is being a good employee and a good soldier for ESPN. Sometimes the questions, like I said, they're of her own volition. She's a smart reporter, does a great job.
Oh yeah, she's awesome.
Other times it's just, and we can kind of tell because we're around her all the time. But other times it's being directed by ESPN. It's not so much Jenna. She's just following orders and getting the sound bites or trying to get the sound bites that they want and need. So that's just how it is.
Yeah, she's got a job to do and she does it very well. So
yes,
shout out to Jenna. Another thing too I want to bring up about Bowles, and as we all said, it's great that we're seeing this personality. I think once we get closer to the season, it's going to get a little more back to like, okay, I'm focused on business, enough with the BS and things like that. Because at the end of the day, Bowles still has a job to do, and this is his second chance to be a head coach. And let's face it, if Brady leaves after this season, I'm not saying Bowles is screwed, but Bowles is definitely in not as an advantageous situation that he once was. So there's a lot going for Todd Bowles this year too. And I think one of the big topics of discussion that I don't even know if Bowles got too much of it, but Antoine Winfield spoke about it. Cam Brate spoke about it. There are 3 games on the schedule where the Bucs have not played well against these teams. You know exactly who we're talking about. It's New Orleans Saints and the LA Rams, and the Bucs are going to get to play them 3 times, obviously in the division with the Saints. And there was a lot of discussion and conversation about why haven't they beat these teams? What has been the issue when it comes to, going up against these teams?
For sure. Yeah. And I thought Cam Brate had the best answer. He said that we don't run the ball well against those teams. Right.
Yeah.
And the Saints and the Rams are 2 teams that just have the pass rushers to get after you. And they've got some playmakers in the secondary too. So when they force you to pass, you're playing right into their hands, right? You got Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, right? You've got Demario Davis, and you've got almost the entire Saints front 4, right? With Cam Jordan and Marcus Davenport and the players that they have up front. So these 2 teams just have the Bucs number. And I think what Cam said is they really have to find a way to run the ball and at least be more balanced against both the Saints and the Rams. Those have been 2 hard teams to run the ball on, to establish the run on. And it just makes the Bucs offense more one-dimensional. And then sometimes when you're being forced to do something, you get impatient. And it's not always just Tom Brady, the trigger man, who's impatient. Sometimes it's the play caller who's too impatient. Sometimes it's the receivers who are trying too hard to make a play. They make a mistake and interception as a result. So I think that there will be a renewed emphasis on the running game this year, even more so just for those opponents where they got to have a little bit more balance. That's one thing Cam Brate pointed to. If you go back and look at the playoff game, the playoff win at New Orleans, they did a better job of running the ball, And Long Lost Laser brings up an interesting topic here. Bowles has more of a mall cop feel than a sheriff. I beg to differ about that. I know it may seem that way because Bowles does come across a little bit more sarcastic than Bruce Arians, who's kind of like straight, no BS, right to the point.
Red in the face,
Yeah.
yelling, screaming.
Yeah. But Matt, the one thing we've heard, and this goes back to the defensive coaches press conferences, right? Casey Rogers talking about it, new outside linebackers coach Bob Sanders talking about it. We heard Cam Brate talk about it today. What's the difference between Todd Bowles and Bruce Arians? And it's details, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rogers kind of talked about it first, then Sanders about how we're correcting mistakes, we're really fine tuning on the details, and that's the one thing that Brate mentioned today. Is he said, we had some details that kind of slipped last year towards the end of the season, and it kind of came back to bite us. And so Todd Bowles is really honest about the details. Every little detail matters, and it all adds up. And I think Bowles right now is being more of a sheriff when it comes to the details than even Bruce Arians was.
Yeah, I think it's important, too, to point out that even going back to last season, remember, Todd Bowles signed an extension to be the defensive coordinator, the highest paid defensive coordinator up until he got this head coaching job. And defensive players weren't just happy. They were absolutely ecstatic. And I remember towards the end of last season, too, Will Gholston said something along the lines of, he's the best coach I've ever played for.
Yeah.
I would run through a brick wall for that man. So I think that speaks a lot to the respect that he commands. You might not necessarily see it when he's cracking jokes here and there, but he's definitely going to have the attention of the of the Bucs locker room. I have the video here of Cam Brate talking about what's went wrong with the Saints and the Rams.
Awesome.
I just want to make sure it might be a little too much data on the file, but let's give it a shot.
Okay. We're going to give it a shot, folks.
Repertoire for sure. Yeah. He'll slip some in.
Cam, I asked Antoine this. I want to ask you the same thing. You've been around here for a long time.
Nope.
The Saints and the Rams, for whatever reason, seem to have you guys' number right now.
Yep.
Why is that? What do you think that common denominator is?
It's $1 million question, Like, you try to figure out why. I'll just speak to our offense, but why offensively we struggle against those teams. I think schematically they do a really good job of taking away, our primary weapons on offense, and sometimes we just gotta be a little more patient, I think, on offense. And you see the game we won against the Saints in the playoffs in 2020. We ran the football, right? I think that's the number one thing you have to do against a defense like that, is you have to have them respect the run. And for whatever reason, last year against those teams, we just couldn't do it. We couldn't get the run game going. And, when those D-lines can tee off, and the playmakers both those teams have in the secondary, when you're sitting back there throwing the whole game, you're not going to score many points. So, obviously, we're going to have to establish the run game somehow, try to establish, our identity. Our identity is who we want to be on offense, and that's a running football team. So, I think we're going to look back on those games and try to really hone in on those game plans.
There has to be more. There has to be a.
The next question, the next question that got cut off there from Joey Knight was about, was there really a reason why he grew the mustache? So,
yeah,
but that's the point we were making about Cam Brate, is
Yeah.
that he could be so funny with the mustache and things like that. And then he gives you a really insightful answer just as that. But, it's going to be Brate. It's going to be leaders such as Bowles making sure that they correct on, some of the issues. And I don't think the Bucs are going to go, I'm not overly confident with them playing against the Saints and the Rams this year, but I don't think they're going to go 0-3. I think they're going to nip one of these problems in the bud.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree. And, long less leisure, didn't Casey Rogers guess Via played between 42 and 50 snaps a game? I believe that's actually accurate. I'd go back and look at my own article because I added it all up and I did the percentages. And so I think they have a pretty good handle on this team and what went wrong last year. And I can just tell you, from talking to all these players, they're still fired up about the Rams game. I mean, they are. I would bet that they're going to beat the Rams this year in the regular season. I just think that they're going to figure it out. The matchups have not gone in the Bucs' favor. They've got to do some different things schematically. They can't just show up and play the same game and expect to win. They're going to have to do some things differently. I think Brate's on the right subject when it comes to establishing the run a little bit more, and you get a better run blocker in Shaq Mason. I think that helps out, Matt.
Without question. And if you were going to bet on Bucs Rams, the best place to go and do that would be MyBookie, mybookie.ag to be specific. And football might not be going on right now. You can wait and bet on that for when the season gets going. But there's still a ton of other sports to bet on right now between playoff hockey. The Bolts got another game tonight. Go Bolts.
Right. Go
You got playoff basketball. And of course, you're right in still towards the beginning of, but right in the thick of the MLB baseball season. Of course, there's 162 games in a baseball season. It can feel like a grind to watch sometimes, but you could put the excitement back into each and every game with MyBookie. You got run lines, money lines, and props galore. I like first inning no runs personally. Nobody gives you more opportunities to win than MyBookie. And getting started is simple. Use the promo code Pewter to claim a MyBookie deposit bonus. They will match up to $1,000 on your first deposit bonus, as you see right there. Go ahead and sign up using the promo code Pewter to secure your first deposit bonus up to $1,000. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. A lot of prop bets, a lot of different things going on. So always
the
fun.
Byron Nelson Classic just finished last week. If you bet on that, folks, they got another one. The PGA Championship is in full swing this week.
Can't wait for that. Yeah,
that's
one
right.
Of the four majors in golf.
That's right. So it's not just football, folks. With MyBookie, you can bet on NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, Major League Baseball, and you've got these tremendous golf events like the PGA Championship coming up May 19th through 22nd. So use that promo code Pewter and get yourself that welcome bonus and place your wagers today. Matt, it was an action-packed day at the Advent Health Training Facility. We have a ton of content coming out over the next 24 hours on pewterreport.com. We're just cracking the surface here, scratching the surface when it comes to content. We got the insider up on pewterreport.com. It's going to give you even more details on what happened in practice today. We're going to have stories on Vida Vea. Cam Brate had some great insight. Todd Bowles touched on a lot of different topics today. And so make sure that you stay tuned to pewterreport.com, our website. We have the Jalen Darden story up. Matt, you had a Zion McCollum story up that was very well read this morning as well. And Josh Capo has got a new grinding the tape on one of the newest Buccaneers, Shaq Mason, coming out first thing tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. So if you like Josh's work when it comes to watching and breaking down the game film, it's something John Ledyard did exceptionally well for us here at pewterreport.com. And Josh Capo is kind of picking up the mantle and carrying the baton around the track, whatever type of
movement
phrase that you want to use, cliche that you want to throw out there. So make sure that you are checking out our website, pewterreport.com. A ton of content.
Yeah. And as you said, Scott, Shaq Mason new to the Bucs and the city of Tampa. So one of the first places that he has to check out is Pin Chasers, as you see on the screen here. Yep. Pinchasers.net is the website. They have locations all over Tampa, as you see here: East Pasco, Zephyr Hills, Midtown, Veterans. They have one very close to the Buccaneers facility. And the beauty of Pin Chasers is that it's more than just a bowling alley. It's a fun night out with friends. It's a great place to go and spend time with your family. Maybe throw your kid a birthday party because you got the bowling lanes. They got an arcade room.
Or if he's acting up, just throw him down the lane. Just bowl him on down the lane.
Exactly. And the food is very underrated. They bring it right to you. And I think another great part as well, too, is that they have different deals every night. All you could eat pizza, $1 Miller Lights, all you can bowl. So make sure you go to pinchasers.net to check out all the different offerings that they have. They have brunch over the weekend as well, too, if you want to get some weekend bowling going on. So go to pinchasers.net to reserve a lane or book your party. Pin Chasers, Anthony Peroni, the owner, is a huge Bucs fan that has season tickets. So you're helping out a fellow Bucs fan by going to Pin Chasers. Scott, one last thing I just wanted to mention before we wrap up here. We talked about a lot. I think one of the things we didn't get to yet, and speaking about that offensive line with Shaq Mason, we know that he's slotted in there at right guard, but a big thing that we're paying attention to for this OTAs and training camp coming up too is the competition at left guard. And we saw, as you predicted, it was Aaron Stinney that got the first start at left guard today with Luke Gadecki going in second. But
Yeah.
Todd Bowles said it's going to be an open competition. But as far as starting out, it's Aaron Stinney that has the job.
And we already saw Luke Gadecki get into some pushing and shoving with Nacho. So it's like,
Yeah.
he's looking for some glass to eat out there. Nacho says, not for me. You're not. You're no glass over here, my friend. I'm a block of granite just like you. So, no, good to see the spirited competition in the trenches. Logan Hall, got a chance to see him in the starting lineup as well. So we're going to be keeping an eye on all the rookies and all the veterans. Rashad White had a nice run to the outside today, showcased his speed. Read that Pewter Report.com Bucs Insider on today's OTA. That'll fill you in on all the details we couldn't get to here today. But we're going to be back at it tomorrow, 4 o'clock Eastern time, with another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Matt, the Pewter train just keeps chugging along, even though the Blaine train threw a couple picks today. And Trask threw one as well. But we'll get another look at Trask and Gabbert and all the Buccaneer players next Wednesday. That's the next open OTA for the media. The Bucs will have OTAs tomorrow and Thursday. Those are closed to the media. Then again, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. The Wednesday session will be open to the media, so we'll have all the coverage from that. But in the meantime, stay glued to pewterreport.com. Make sure that you're subscribing to our YouTube channel, Pewter Report TV. We're on the way to 8,400, close to 8,400 already. Going to be 8,500 before you know it. Thanks to you guys for hitting the like button on all our videos and podcasts, because when you do, every single one of them helps our algorithm, helps us get in front of more awesome Pewter people like you, and helps boost our subscription totals. So we greatly appreciate it. Matt, we're going to be back tomorrow, 4 o'clock Eastern time, are we not?
That is correct. So thank you, everyone, for watching today's show. We will catch you tomorrow, Wednesday at 4 p.m. for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Thank you, Pewter people. Out.
Out. Go Bolts.